When Black Sabbath's record company heard Paranoid, they knew straight away it was a hit. I think they knew before the band members knew themselves.
Paranoid is without doubt one of the classic heavy metal songs of all time. It's top 10.
Paranoid's an all-time classic because you can walk into any jukebox in any bar in most towns and it'll be there.
I think this is probably Sabbath's sort of their signature tune almost.
2 minutes plus of pop metal is probably the best way for me to describe it, because it actually is a pop song when you listen to it.
Very short, very sharp, very straightforward, and as soon as you say the term Paranoid and as soon as you hear the opening chords, you know exactly how it goes. Hit single, remains a hit single, remains timeless.
It was quite astonishing at the time because hardly anybody would play it on the radio. It was too heavy. So people that heard it responded to it immediately and went out and bought it.
I think when you think of early rock, that's one of the tracks that immediately springs into your head. It's just got everything. It's got the vocal, slightly cheeky, Ozzy, one of Ozzy's finest moments.
The classic status would be that it came out at just the right time for when music was changing to becoming more heavy, and whenever something is the first, then obviously it's going to be a classic. More than it being the best, the first is the most important, really.
It wasn't really going to be as a single. We wasn't intending on doing a single. We were in the studio to write an album, the Paranoid album, which was going to be originally called War Pigs, but they banned it from being called War Pigs, so we called it Paranoid. Yeah, we went in to record the album, and in the lunch break, I stayed. I didn't go out to eat with the others. I just stayed at the studio and just came up with this riff, this Paranoid. And when everybody came back, I said, well, let's just put this down. So we put it down, and that was it. It wasn't intended as a single or anything. It was just another one for the album.
And it's all done and dusted within 30 minutes. The track's finished, you know, written, recorded, and the rest is history.
Great things are spontaneous. And I'm sure that if Sabbath had sat down and tried to come up with a musical formula on paper, and then, you know, for what they wanted, and then tried to do it, it would have flopped disastrously. But I don't think they thought about it that much. They also, oh yeah, let's do this, and went in and did it, and that's why it works so well.
The track itself has been a hit first time round, a hit in 1980, and in 1995, Kerrang! Magazine dubbed it possibly the greatest riff in rock music. So that's not a bad going for a single track that encapsulated everything perhaps that Dark Side of the Moon would a few years later.
It's real fun to play when I've played it with Black Sabbath. It's really enjoyable. And also you know that the crowd is going to go nuts when you play Paranoid.
When it's up and running, it's thundering away at you. It's not very long, I think it's under 3 minutes. Or if it isn't, it's just over 3 minutes. Then it's gone in a flash. And it just leaves you going, what the hell was that?
The die-hard Black Sabbath fans, especially the whole brigade that believe there is no Sabbath after Ozzy, I think most of them would classify it as the defining moment in Black Sabbath's career.
It's a great record. To this day, it's a great record. It has just a unique feel to it.
Whether it's the greatest song they ever did, I wouldn't think so. But it's immediate, and I wish I'd written it.
The unique thing about Black Sabbath was really the way that they all interacted, I think. And I don't mean off stage, I mean on stage and in the recording studio.
They just had it on stage as a band. They weren't the best musicians in the world. Osbourne wasn't the best singer in the world, but as a unit, they were fantastic. They rocked in a sort of a heavy way that none of the other bands did.
Obviously, as a three-piece instrumental group with Ozzy singing in front, the bass and drums had to give a real kick for Iommi to play over. And particularly because a lot of the songs were not done at the breakneck speed that, say, Led Zeppelin favoured. You'd have to have a rock-solid basis to carry the song. Iommi knew that he had it, he used it, and Ozzy did the rest.
Sabbath when I was a youngster with Ozzy, and that was classic. You know, it was an experience to be revered, if not musically, just for the experience of watching some loony jump about on stage.
There's no one better on stage than Ozzy. I mean, he's an absolute monster when it comes to that.
On stage, he's a superb entertainer, incredible, enthusiastic.
And I think, conversely, he brought the best out of Tony Iommi. So as a frontman, I don't think Iommi was naturally that much of a sort of extrovert. But the fact he was on stage with Ozzy, he could rely on Ozzy to really stir the audience up, pump them up, and sort of kind of keep the drama up.
Ozzy Osbourne is a completely off-the-wall character, so he brings that to his singing.
Not technically the greatest singer in the world, but a man who used his voice to suit what his band were doing perfectly.
If you ever say to Ozzy, you're a great singer, he just laughs and looks very scornful or disbelieving. I don't think he believes in himself as a singer, really, but he actually is. He has got a very strange, interesting tone to his voice, which lends itself perfectly to all the early Black Sabbath tunes. So, yeah, I think Ozzy was a great singer.
I think Ozzy definitely, he can sing. I think, you know, in later years he might have lost a bit of confidence in his voice sometimes for whatever reason, but I think at the end of the day, I think he's got a magnificent voice.
And obviously, mad as a bag of spanners.
Ozzy gave the band its visual identity, its vocal identity certainly, and whether people love him or hate him as a singer, he certainly, you know, drew the band out and brought them to fame and fortune. Of that I have no doubt whatsoever.
The original lineup of Black Sabbath hit a peak with Paranoid and Master of Reality, two albums that really gave their musical manifesto in a very, very succinct form. By the time they got onto Volume 4, they'd jettisoned the original producer Roger Bain, and with it they'd taken on extra light and shade using Rick Wakeman, the keyboard player of Yes, to give them a different tone colour.
The danger would be that after 2 or 3 very successful records, then they know that what they have to do is to pretty much continue with that style, and the audience doesn't really want them to divert too much from that.